Hello, I hope you can hear me, and I hope that my voice lasts, because I don't know about you guys, but I keep getting hot and cold and my asthma's just starting to play up, so we'll see how far we can get. I'd like to first of all acknowledge that I have 3 colleagues who work with EPICA, and EPICA is, as we said, is the Peninsula Integrated Climate Change Agreement. And so that's Brian Foster, who's sitting down there, is known to most of you. He's actually the chair of EPICA, and I would say the leading inspiration that got EPICA off the ground so many years ago. Sitting with Brian is Heather Baldock, who's the current presiding member of the EPNRM board, and again sits at the table, and Rohan sits at the table as the minister's representative. What I want to do today is very quickly talk to you about what it's like being a practitioner working in a rural, remote region talking about climate change. A slight picture is that we're basically 55,000 people, which is a very small electorate really, and we've got 11 local governments, local government areas, and we actually punch above our weight for what we produce. We produce $2.5 billion to South Australia's economy, and 45% of the wheat crop, 45% of the state's seafood harvest. What we think is we're a pretty special little place. What we know is that climate change is going to have an effect on us. What we did was we thought we better handle this in a different way. So what EPICA is it was the first signed sector agreement in South Australia. It was signed in 2010 between the South Australian Minister for Sustainability and Climate Change and the peak bodies on the Eyre Peninsula, which is the Natural Resources Management Board, the Eyre Peninsula Local Government Association, and the Regional Development Australia, Whyalla and Eyre Peninsula. Around that table sit the chairs of those organisations, plus another board member, plus the CEO, or the most accountable operative. We also have emergency planning sitting at the table, and we have 3 different department heads at the table, and Adam sits at that table too. What we said we would do is that we would take a collaborative approach to ensure that the region kept all of those wonderful advantages, not only its economic future, but its beauty and its livability, its social integrity. We would all work together to do that, and we'd actually ensure that we kept our prosperity going. How did we actually get there? What happened was that we knew we were facing a hotter, higher, drier future. And we also knew that all of our future was going to depend on decision making. And our decision making bodies often made decisions in silos or isolation, or there was no integration. However, we had a history whereby whenever we were faced with calamity like bushfires or drought, poor economic uncertainty, I'd hate to say bad public policy because that probably doesn't exist. And climate change skeptics. What we realised was that, are we all just too diverse? Are we all so different that we can't come together and do this? Every time we're faced with calamity, the regional leaders got together in almost a de facto way and drove through policy changes, economic development, behavioural changes, and got us through those calamities. Brian Foster, in his wisdom, realised that if we continue to make the decisions that we face in a climate change future, we actually won't get through. So this is the biggest calamity our region was going to face. So he brought all of the community leaders together and said, let's make it formal, let's get this collaboration thing absolutely across all of our tables, let's work together. What we did, I won't go through it all, you can see that, but we actually agreed that we would take this really seriously and commit to it. For the next 5 years, we'd actually be a region that could integrate its strategic direction, be collaborative. We'd cross-fertilise the decisions, so what somebody was learning here, they'd tell at that table. What somebody was saying, I'm going to do it here, we'd all be able to say, oh, we can actually help with that, or that's happening here. We would actually inform each other in an integral way, but it had to be science-based. We'd also recognise that we need to take state and national policy into consideration because they were going to be our impacts as well. And we would also take a leadership role of contributing and driving government policy as much as we possibly can. We took our role as being the grassroots upwards very, very seriously. What have we done? These are the main projects that we've apart from the fact that we've actually got people talking, the main projects that we started hitting at were these four here. The first one was brilliantly done by Nicole and UPRS, and it was called the Resilient Coastal Communities Preparing Sea Level Rise in the Upper Peninsula Gulf. What it really was we were being told, don't bother communicating with us as a community because we're over being consulted. We're just not going to come anymore. Nobody listens. Nobody says what you're doing, and you've already got your plans made. So we thought, how are we going to get across this? How are we going to learn to communicate? So Nicole's project took Whyalla and took a different view of communication. Instead of just putting out a request to come to a workshop, we knew we were going to get the same nannies, baddies, all the processed, coming to those workshops. So Nicole's whole mechanism was to, instead of going widely and horizontally into the community, we went vertically, recognising that all of us wear different hats. So you invite me, you get me with the tennis club and the boats and all that, but you also get my mates who do the same thing. So we're talking about people who influence each other in a social way. So the whole idea was that we would invite pivotal people who would then invite people who would then invite people. It was a fantastic project. It won the President's Award from the Planning Institute of Australia. What it did for us was it confirmed that we've got to use the right language. And we confirmed that we had to talk to people who influence other people in their own way. One of the main things we learned was that we can't use the word vulnerability. And I know that was all the talk before, but the word vulnerability on the Eyre Peninsula makes everybody go, I don't think so. I don't think so. We're innovative, we're progressive, we supply so much money to the state government, we're really good at what we do, and they turn it off. So, what we then, so we can't use that word. We then, I'll go to the next one, our adaptation plan is in 2 stages, and Mark Stephenship and Associates helped us put together the first stage, was an extensive research audit, and it wasn't just a desktop research audit, it was actually going to people's offices and saying, what's that box down there, what's that curriculum research there. We grabbed them all together and we put together a database that has recent, relevant and rigorous work, so that now it's a central resource for all of our work. That underpins the next stage, which is the adaptation options assessment that we're doing across the whole peninsula. We're about to start that, hopefully in about 2 weeks' time. And we knew that we had to talk about opportunities. We couldn't talk about vulnerability, so it is about opportunities and how we'll do that. And then the database will become, if we can fund it, a really accessible database for all of the stakeholders. And we thought also we needed to look at mitigation in some way, shape or form. So we're working with Climate Works, who are from Victoria, to develop a low carbon growth plan for the whole of the UK. So basically, overarchingly, what we've done in the Eyre Peninsula is kept everybody talking at the table. We'll develop a plan that is a future that our community is telling us that they want. We're also creating a central reference point that will guide all of the sector level planning. We won't be telling everybody what to do. We'll work the synergies, and underneath that, each sector will work its own plan out. So, thank you very much. Thank you.